Yo, what is good YouTube? I am Richie Kim, and today I'm going to be bringing you all the performance review on the all-new Nike AlphaDunk. Before we get started, if you all enjoy sneaker content just like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below. But anyways, let's get right into it. As always, starting off with the traction, the Nike AlphaDunk features a full translucent rubber outsole, at least on this pair, and the traction pattern is just a bunch of circles that protrude out from the forefoot, and then it's just like these little lines that go across towards the heel area. And the traction on here is just really, it's really bad. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but you know, I've been playing in the shoe for over 2 weeks now, and the traction has just been consistently bad. Even if I was playing on a clean court, I would still slide. Like, you don't really like come to a stop at all, at least when it comes to lateral movements. So on lateral movements, like on cuts and like crossovers and things like that, my foot literally just slipped out no matter what, like whether it was a clean court or a dusty court. And that's even after like wiping, because this traction pattern does pick up dust, which is also, you know, another problem. But on linear movements, like stopping linearly, I didn't have any problems at all. It's just those lateral movements where your foot just slips out, and that really sucked. The only time that I ever had like good stops was when it was like really humid outside. It would make the inside of the gym humid as well, and I would actually have decent traction. But on normal days where it's not humid, you guys are gonna be slipping. At least I did. You know, maybe other people aren't experiencing the same problem I did, but this was really consistent for me. So the traction on the AlphaDunk was just not good at all. So moving on to the cushion, the AlphaDunk features a full-length Phylon midsole with a giant zoom unit up in the forefoot, and compared to the Zoom Rise, this is even bigger, especially because this cushion actually protrudes all the way to like the tip of your toes, whereas in the Zoom Rise, the unit kind of stopped like right here, or maybe like right here. It was mainly in like the ball of your foot area. So that's the big difference. I'm not sure like if this is like slightly bigger in terms of like width wise as well. It may be, but I don't have the exact tech specs on that. But yeah, you know, the cushion on here is really nice. The cushion up in the forefoot is awesome, very bouncy. You do obviously lose a little bit of court feel just because of like how thick and bouncy the Zoom unit is, but I wouldn't say like it's extremely like you have zero court feel at all. I would say you have just a little bit. So if you guys like that court feel and responsiveness, I would definitely say that this probably isn't the shoe for you. But if you like that impact protection and that super really nice bounce up in the forefoot, this has got you covered. So the rest of the shoe features a Phylon midsole, and you know, it's actually a stiffer version of Phylon than what's used in the Zoom Rise, and I personally didn't like that. I really thought that the Phylon and the forefoot zoom unit that they use in the Zoom Rise just felt really nice. It felt really good heel to toe transition wise. This one is definitely like, I would say like slightly clunkier just because of how stiff it is in the back compared to how, you know, bouncy it is up in the forefoot. So I wish it was more like the Zoom Rise, but I mean, hey, you know, it does get the job done. I do just wish that, you know, heel to toe transition was a little bit better just because of how stiff the Phylon is in the back of the shoe. And also, you know, another thing to mention that goes along kind of with like the cushion is the fact that the outsole really isn't that flexible, pretty much because of like how big this zoom unit is. The zoom unit just doesn't allow your forefoot to flex with the shoe. I mean, it really isn't that big of a deal. Like, it's not a deal breaker or anything, but it is something to note. So moving on to the materials, the AlphaDunk features a full Flyknit upper, and I would definitely compare this Flyknit to something like Battle Knit on the LeBron 16, I believe. It kind of feels the same, but definitely a little bit different as well. The Flyknit on here definitely feels more plasticky, but in terms of like the actual like shape of it, I guess it's very reminiscent of the 16. The Flyknit on here almost feels as if it's like a TPU coated Flyknit, so it's like a little bit like stiff and rigid, which is a good thing, and it could be a bad thing, but honestly I thought it was perfectly fine. It does offer a lot more containment than I would say just like traditional Flyknit. As you move towards the back, this Flyknit actually does continue into this like back shroud I'm not too sure why they put this like shroud around it, but it is just like a synthetic material. It doesn't really feel that great. I'd say it's here for more support and containment, as well as just like aesthetics. And for the tongue, you do have like a synthetic tongue. It doesn't really have like big open holes in the tongue, or it's not like an open air mesh. So combine that with the materials in here and you do get a little bit toasty in the shoe, but overall I'd say the materials do the job just fine. So material usage on the AlphaDunk is pretty good. So moving on to the fit, I'd say the AlphaDunk runs true to size. If you guys are slightly wide footers, I'd say going true to size is perfectly fine. If you guys are wide footers to hella wide footers, I would definitely recommend you guys try these on in stores first if possible, because I did have just a little bit of pressure up in the forefoot. And when I say a little bit, I really do mean just a little bit. And that problem went away like really quickly, especially after materials broke in and like conformed to my foot. So this recommendation is only if like you have that pinching pain up in the forefoot area, and you know, you're only gonna run into that if you guys are on the extreme end of being that wide footer. One thing to mention about the fit is that this is kind of like the, I would say it's like the Why Not 0.2 setup, where you have like an inner booty and like this shroud piece on the outside of it. So it was actually a little bit hard for me to slide in my foot into the shoe at times, just because this part would like crumple in as I slid in my heel, and that got a little bit annoying, but it's definitely not a deal breaker as well. And you can actually loosen up the shoe quite a lot if you really are having trouble getting your foot in, but that is another thing to mention about the fit. I also didn't have like any dead space up in the toe box area, so that's also a plus. Fit on the AlphaDunk is actually pretty good. So moving on to the support, I thought the support in the shoe was just fine. It has everything that you want and nothing that you don't. I didn't have any heel slippage in the heel, obviously, and when it comes to side-to-side movement on the footbed, I had zero of that compared to, you know, the Zoom Rise. I think it's the material usage, especially because on the Zoom Rise I did have, you know, I mentioned that my foot did slide off the footbed at times, and I could definitely feel it, but on here I never had that problem. I can't say exactly why it is, but I'm going to attribute it due to the materials. And like I said before, you know, this shoe is very, very rigid, so you guys are gonna be covered when it comes to torsional rigidity and stability. Like, look at this, you can't bend it, like, come on. So the AlphaDunk retails for $180, and for $180, that is a huge price to pay, especially for a performer like this. Like, it's just not worth it in my opinion. I would say go for the Zoom Rise. You get pretty much everything this shoe has to offer, except for the fact that the Zoom unit doesn't extend all the way to the tip of your toes. Like, if the traction was better, I would probably recommend this shoe, but just because it was so bad for me, I just can't do it. Like, I have given this shoe plenty of time to break in, and the traction is still really, really bad, and it's consistently bad. Like, I'm always slipping. Except when it's humid outside. That's the only time I don't slip out. Outside of that traction problem, I do wish the cushion in the heel, like this Phylon part, was a little bit softer. I think that would have made this shoe a lot better, but everything else was perfectly fine. It's just the main problem with the shoe is the traction. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, especially for the price. You know, if they drop the price and maybe like put on a solid rubber outsole, hopefully that'll perform better. But you know, as of right now, I just can't recommend it, especially for $180. You could put your money elsewhere and get way better performer. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this performance review. If you all like this video, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, and also smash that thumbs up button for me, as it really does help me out. While you guys are at it, check out this video on my left and on my right, and that's pretty much it. Until next time, peace.